Chapter 21. The Truth Will Set You Free. As Peter and John showed, true liberty lies in the obedience to God of Catholic truth, and not in the liberals' freedom of conscience for error. This truth comes only from the Church teaching knowledge of Jesus Christ, and when this truth perishes, the earth will come to an end. The first word of true freedom ever to fall from a mortal mouth, the first act of true freedom ever witnessed by the human race, was when two poor Jews, the apostles Peter and John, proclaimed our duty to obey God rather than men, and continued to spread that teaching which error and persecution, disguised as justice and prudence, sought to suppress. Acts 4:19-20. Whoever follows their example is free. Free from false judges, free from false wise men. He enters the impregnable city. His thinking, freed from ignoble fears, is snatched from the grip of death, and he frees from slavery all those he manages to persuade. But notice two things. Firstly, this act of freedom that the apostles perform in the face of earthly powers is at the same time a true act of submission before God, and they are so strong against the world only because they are obedient to God. In an eloquent speech delivered before the Congress of Malines, a speech renowned among liberal Catholics, liberty of conscience is traced back to this first famous refusal to go along. Non possumus. We cannot. It is there that it was supposedly created and promulgated. Translator's note. The Congress of Malines in Belgium, August 20th, 21st of 1863, provided the most complete and most vigorous formulations of liberal Catholicism. The speech to which Veuillot refers was delivered by Charles Forbes René, Count of Montalembert, a member of the French National Assembly, who fought alongside Veuillot in the battle for academic freedom, but who soon betrayed a too great attachment to the principles of the French Revolution, and became the leader of the liberal Catholic movement alongside Bishop Dupanloup. Montalembert stated at Malines, "Every increase of political and civil liberty is advantageous for the Church. Every restriction of liberty works against her." He then cites Bishop Dupanloup. "We invoke for ourselves, just as we evoke for others, the liberties so dear to those who accuse us of not loving them. We accept and we invoke the principles and the liberties proclaimed in 1789, the first year of the French Revolution." Emmanuel Barbier, Histoire du Catholicisme libéral et du Catholicisme social en France, du Concile du Vatican à l'avènement de SS Benoit, the 15th, 1870 through 1914. End translator's note. Quite the contrary, according to the well-founded remark of an English author who said, "It was on that day, by that non possumus, that human conscience knew and accepted the bounds of an immutable law. It was no principle of liberal freedom that St. Peter evoked. He was proclaiming the imperishable, irrevocable duty imposed by God that bound him to preach revealed truth. He was not, therefore, announcing to the world the liberal freedom of conscience. On the contrary, he was laying upon consciences the glorious weight of bearing witness to the truth. He was freeing conscience not from God, but from men. He could demand of the pagans liberty for Christians. He was not giving, never dreamt of giving, to Christians license to raise error to the level of truth, so that someday they might be treated as equals, so that truth might consider error as sovereign by divine right in one place, so long as she herself be sovereign or tolerated in another. And what answers could such a humiliated, diminished truth give to the countless sophisms of error? Secondly, the Church alone has the mission to teach this truth that sets souls free, the one and only truth, and she persuades only those souls that are filled with Jesus Christ. Where Jesus Christ is not known, man obeys man and obeys him absolutely. Where the knowledge of Jesus Christ fades away, truth declines, liberty is eclipsed, and the former tyranny comes back, spreading wider than ever. When the Church can no longer preach Jesus Christ whole and entire, when nations will no longer understand that it is necessary to obey God rather than men, when a voice will no longer rise up to profess the truth openly and without compromise, then liberty will have disappeared from the face of the earth. Then human history will be nearing its end. Nevertheless, as long as there remains one man with his faith intact, that man will be free from the bonds that enchains the world, and will hold in his hands his fate and the fate of the world. The world will exist only for his sanctification. And if this man also came to apostatize, and to say to the Antichrist, not that he is right in persecuting God, but simply that he is allowed not to use his strength to bring about God's reign, then the apostate would be uttering his own condemnation and that of the whole world. God would no longer make the sun to shine on an earth that had ceased entirely to offer up to divine truth the testimony and the adoration that are its due. Deprived of the counterweight of obedience and prayer, blasphemy itself would no longer be hurled at heaven, but would collapse immediately, tumbling by its own weight into the pit of hell.